Well, good morning and welcome to the Institutes for the Achievement of Human Potential. We're here on our beautiful campus, and I'm going to get to spend some very, I hope, valuable time with you to talk about teaching your child and the best way to do that. And if I look at the questions that mothers send and have been sending us for half a century, many of the questions, they're always the right question, they're always good questions. They always indicate how much mothers and fathers want to teach their kids. But we always want to step back from almost all those questions and say, to some degree, they're very technical. And we want our parents to be philosophers, to not get too buried in technique. So I want to say at the outset, of all the things we could do to make your program stronger, whatever your program may be with your child right now, the thing that we would say is be sure you know why you're doing what you're doing. Don't do anything with your child, whether it's this program or something else, that you feel, well, I'm doing it because I think it's the right thing to do, but I'm not really sure why I'm doing this. We don't think that your child will prosper, and we don't think you will prosper. So before you undertake any part of our program, we want you to feel that you understand the philosophy, and most important, that you agree with it. That you really agree with it, that it touches all the points in your own reality that make sense. That there's no point where you say, well, that doesn't make sense to me. I'm not comfortable with that. So to this end, the modern mother is very busy. And that's the greatest barrier. Right now in the economy in which we live, it looks like money is the greatest barrier, but it's really not. Time is always the biggest enemy for a mother. From the moment mother wakes up to the moment mother goes to sleep at night, she's racing the clock. Well, I don't need to tell you that. You live it every day. So let's talk a little bit about how you're going to use that time and what's the best use of your time. The first step, and everything I'm going to say about reading, we could also apply it to encyclopedic knowledge, bits of intelligence. We could apply it to the math program. We could apply it to foreign language. To some degree, we can even apply it to the physical program. Anything that you're going to do with your child, you need to approach it from a feeling of confidence and enthusiasm. And the best way to do that, in our opinion, if you're starting a reading program, is to read the book. Now, when we said that to mothers 50 years ago, mothers actually had a lot more time to read that book, and they did. And it made a huge difference. But for the modern mother, she often says, oh, when would I have time to read the book? Well, let me say a little something about it. I see a lot of mothers who they get the book and they say, I can't read the whole book, so I'm just going to read the how-to chapter so I can get started. Disaster. If you have the book, if you've borrowed the book, the first thing you should do is don't say to yourself, I'm going to read this whole book. Say, I'm only going to read the first chapter. And if I don't like the first chapter, then the heck with it. But if I do, then maybe I'll schedule some time to read the second chapter. For us, the book is about the philosophy. By the time you get to the how-to chapter, you could write that chapter yourself, because it's very obvious. Our program is not about cards. It's not about chasing a child around the house with a big stack of cards. It's not. It's simply not. But you won't know that unless you really read the book. For those mothers who are pinching pennies, and that's just about every mother, yeah, you can go up to Amazon, you can get the book, the third edition, but you can also go up to Amazon and you can find that book for $3, $2, $1, 50 cents. You can also go to the library, and many libraries have the book, have 10 copies of the book. because it's so requested. So my first plea to you, if you actually are out there and you're teaching your child to read, but you haven't really read the book, the first way to answer 99% of all of your questions is read the book. But just start with the first chapter. I promise you, that first chapter is not going to waste 1 second of your time. Not 1 second. You'll read that first chapter and say, that was worth it. Now maybe I want to read the second chapter. For mothers who really don't like to read, or maybe mothers who even struggle to read, we spent a lot of time creating a DVD that will walk you through the book. Now, the DVD says over and over again, get the book, read the book, get the book, read the book. I think I said it as many times as I could because it strengthens you. But for those of you who can't confront a book, get the DVD. You can get the DVD, go up to the General Revolution Press, generalrevolution.com, and you can get the DVD, and in 80 minutes, you'll have a very big picture as to the why behind the reading program. Yes, you'll get the how-tos, but mostly it's the philosophy. We are not technicians here at the Institutes, we're philosophers. And our job as we see it is to teach any parent who wants to learn that philosophy of how you teach joyously, how you teach in the way that's appropriate to the child, and how you teach effectively. That's the heart of the matter, not chasing your kid around with a pile of cards. So first, I would take those steps. Now, it's true, and we'll talk a little bit later about it. It's true that we have a wonderful course, which we highly recommend. I'll talk about it at the end. But just to get started, it doesn't cost anything to go to the library and to spend 15 minutes reading the first chapter of the book or watching the DVD. I would highly and strongly recommend it. And the same thing would be true if you're interested in encyclopedic knowledge or the math program. You can get started on that same pathway using identical tools. So I think getting started is the hardest part. Now, another aspect to time is, when do you have time to do this? Now, for a full-time mother, the book and the DVD, they're going to coach you to really how to divide your day and give you all the pointers you need, I think. But many, many mothers who write to us are not full-time mothers. They don't have that option. And that makes it very tough because mothers then feel excluded from the process. How can I do this? Well, the first and best advice I would give to any mother who really wants to be with her child and really wants to teach her child, but feels that she's outside of her home so much, and we've given this advice to many mothers who've been able to take it. You know, many mothers work part-time, and they often work part-time in the morning, and then they come home in the afternoon. And we say to those mothers, it's upside down. The golden time of the day for your child, for every child, is from the moment he wakes up until about 11:30. And then he's ready to eat lunch, take a nap, downtime. It's a shame that many mothers come home just at the point where their kid is crashing and ready for a nap, cranky. This is not a good teaching time. It's the graveyard shift for a child. So any mother who can buy back the morning, any father who can get morning time from the time the kid wakes up till 11:30, if you could do that every day, wow, you could make a substantial change in the whole dynamic. You know, it's hard here at the Institutes because our work, as you probably know, our work began with severely brain injured children, in some cases who were blind and deaf and paralyzed, and that's still our primary work. Because we live in that world, we are always looking at what is the ideal situation for a child. How can we create the ideal physical environment? How can we create the ideal intellectual environment? How can we create the ideal physiological environment? That's how we think. And when we're dealing with our well babies, we always want the ideal environment. We want to say, what would be ideal? And then we work backwards, dealing with reality and being pragmatic to say, how close can we come to that? So if we look at ideally, the ideal thing would be for your baby from the moment he arrives at birth until at least age 6 to be home with you or dad, or preferably both, maybe together, maybe individually. And if grandmother is close at hand or grandfather, wow, fabulous to be able to have the key family members right there. For every child in the world, if we could arrange for them to be nose to nose with mom and dad, grandmother or grandfather between birth and 6, this would be ideal. Absolutely ideal. Now, I can feel many of you saying, I'd love that, but I have to put food on the table. I have to put a roof over our head. So having said that, that's the ideal that we want to work toward. How can we come as close to that as we possibly can? First, buy back the morning. If you can buy back the morning, that'd be fabulous. If you cannot, a second proposal is to see if you can get a single whole day. A whole day. Maybe set up your work schedule differently so that one whole day a week, you get your kid 100%. So that you get to sculpt his day. He gets to be with you uninterrupted, and you get to be with him. Obviously, Saturday and Sunday are to some degree available, but I think the weekend is always a different time. And I'd like to hold the weekend in a different category and say, see if you can buy back Friday, or see if you can buy back Tuesday, some day where you say, this day is only for my kid. And from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep at night, this is about my kid. I take the phone off the hook, I turn off the electronic devices, I put the sign on the door that says professional mother at work or professional father at work, and that day, I am fully at the command and disposal of my child. If every mother in the whole world got to have one day a week like that, I assure you, in 12 months, the entire world would be different. And it would be different better, much, much better. Because mothers and fathers need their children. And children, especially babies, need their mothers and they need their fathers. You see a big study that came out yesterday from one of the universities said, babies respond in a special and unique way to mother's voice and to no one else's voice. And the commentators who were announcing this were, isn't that amazing? It's no one else's, not another female or not aunt's voice, not grandmother's voice, only mother. Well, I have to say, I don't think there's any mother in the world who doesn't know that. I don't think there's any mother in the world that would say, gee, we need a study to see if I'm something special to the baby. Of course you are. Of course you are. Babies are so smart. And from day one, they're looking for time with mother. So if you can buy that day to be with your child, that one day, where all day long, it's not about the laundry, it's not about the house, it's not about food shopping, it's not about the zillion other things that you and I know have to be done. That day, it's all about your kid. You can do some really amazing things with your child. Some really amazing things. So that would be my second battle plan. And if you can buy a period of time, you know, in some countries, mothers get a whole year to be with the baby. I mean, how fabulous is that? If you can buy twice the time from the baby, when the baby is born, to when you're supposed to go back and be back in the saddle, that time will be invaluable to your baby, because you can provide much more of that ideal scene than anyone else can provide. And because you're getting into real communication with your baby, because there is a danger. The degree mother has to drop off the kid in the morning, pick him up at night, there's a real danger that that line of communication that is so profound, that is so important, that mother and child have for the rest of their lives, we're really in danger of you losing the quality of that, because it is about time. It isn't just about, oh, well, he knows I love him. Of course he knows you love him. It's about, are we there when he needs us? Are we there? So I would do everything in your power to buy morning time if you can, or a whole day, or a longer period of time after the baby is born, to put him on his feet, because our experience, 61 years of night and day experience with mothers and babies, tells us that every minute a mother spends nose to nose with her baby or her young child is invaluable to that child. And every minute mother is torn away or dad is torn away, that child is not on as good a path as he could be on, and as we would like to help him to be on. So that would be my starting point for every single mother and every single father. Know that whether you're doing our program, whether you're doing any other program, the most important thing is to be with your child. The most important thing is for your child to know what you think, to know who you are, for you to be with him, to show him each step along the way the things that he needs to learn. You know, another thing we should consider, mothers spend a huge amount of time worrying about food. And it's not the purpose today to talk about nutrition, but I can tell you, if we say we're about to talk about nutrition, you know, we'll be avalanched with questions, because this is a big preoccupation for mothers. And it's understandable. We're in a very difficult moment when it comes to our food and our children. So you and I, we spend a lot of time searching for the best, the freshest, the organic, the locally grown, the food with the good pH versus the bad. I mean, we have so many ways we're looking at food to try to get the very best. And it's a good thing, because it does make a difference. But ask yourself this: how much time do we adults spend worrying about the intellectual diet of our kids? The intellectual diet. We worry about the food diet. We go to the market. We shop very carefully. We spend a lot of money. We have to. It costs a lot. And then we come home and we sort the food and we wrap it carefully, and then we get it out and we clean it carefully and chop it carefully and cook it carefully. We even present it very carefully. Of course we do. And, you know, I'm guessing, but I'll bet you feed your kid 3 times a day, maybe 4 times a day. If it's a baby, you're feeding them constantly. So food's a big deal. But how much time do we give a child intellectual food? How much time do we spend shopping for that food, preparing that food, and then delivering that food in the best possible way? And the answer to that for most children is 0 time. 0. Nobody thinks about that. And yet, from the viewpoint of the child, He wants intellectual stimulation more than he wants anything else. From the moment he arrives in the morning, when he troops into your bedroom, the 2-year-old, and he's jumping on your bed to wake you up at 5:30 in the morning. And if he's got an older brother or sister, they're aiding and abetting. Mothers and fathers are often awakened by a 2-year-old and a 3.5-year-old jumping on the bed. From the moment they arrive in the morning, the 2-year-old saying, "Next, mommy, more mommy, again, mommy." And the 3-year-old saying, "Why? Why?" So a mother, from the time she wakes up, if she's got those 2 little kids, she's getting next, why, next, what? Wow. She's got 2 intellectuals who are pummeling her with questions. And they're really saying, I'm starved for intellectual information. I'm starving. And she'll run around and feed those kids real food. But what they're starving for is intellectual stimulation. The reading program is part of that intellectual stimulation. And that's a wonderful thing. Encyclopedic knowledge is part of that intellectual stimulation. A math program is part of that intellectual stimulation. Foreign language, it's part. Putting it all together, we can make a wonderful intellectual diet with variety, with things we can rotate in and rotate out. It can be flexible. It can address the things your child really likes. In the food world, sometimes you can feed your child the foods he really likes if he really likes good things. But very often, children are exposed to junk food and, they want the candy or they want the ice cream. And you and I can't do that. We can't feed them on a diet of candy and ice cream. But in the intellectual diet, whether it's reading words or bits of intelligence or mathematics, whatever it is, we can spoil him rotten. If he wants to learn all words about dump trucks and earth-moving equipment and trains and cars, then we can do that. We can cater exactly to what he wants, exactly to what he likes. And all of our experience tells us that's exactly what we should do. It's exactly what we should do. We should look at what's his personality. What does he like? And that's the path that we go down. And the more we follow that path, the more we learn about him. Because your child did not arrive Mr. Bland. He arrived with very clear ideas, things that he needs, things that he wants. And every day, that's going to be clearer to you and clearer to you. In the intellectual program that you do with him, you're listening to find out what is he interested in. What would he like? What book should I get for him? And when you're not sure, you get 4 books, you put them out and you say, which book do you think you'd like? And that's the book you get from the library. And maybe you take that book and steal the words in that book and make them into single words and then couplets. And that's going to be a big book for him because he chose that. So a big part of the big thinking in your philosophy of your program is to say, it's not about me writing a curriculum. It's not about me pretending to be a 3rd grade teacher in my living room. It's not. It's just the opposite. It's about you being your kid's mother or your kid's father and saying, I know him better than anybody. And because I do, I'm going to listen and I'm going to watch and I'm going to see the things he really loves. And then I'm going to do more of that, whatever that may be. I'm going to walk down his path with him. And if you do it, 6 months from now, you will be at a destination you could not have imagined. And if you keep doing it, 5 years from now, you will surely be at an amazing place. So again, we want you to think in terms of that intellectual diet. To say when you go to bed at night, am I prepared for the intellectual diet tomorrow? Have I salted away enough material? Have I salted away enough books from the library so I always have something new to read to him? Do I have a house full of good things so that anytime he needs an intellectual snack, I have it? And again, this goes to being prepared. It goes to thinking about this before you plunge in to say, how can I do that to make my house full of those things? Because it's certainly not about toys. I haven't met a mother who hasn't had a belly full of toys. I meet mothers who say, if my kid gets given one more big piece of plastic to clog up our living room, which he plays with for 5 minutes once, and then he never wants to see it again. I mean, people think they have to have a whole room just for toys. It's good to have a whole room to do physical things and intellectual things. That's great, but not for a bunch of plastic to inhabit. So it's not about toys. It's about tools, real tools. And tools are books. Tools are blocks that you build with. Tools are real tools that actually work, like a real hammer that actually can put a real nail into a piece of wood. Tools can be about having an aquarium with real fish. Tools can be about planting seeds in pots on the windowsill. You know, the fascinating thing is when we really look at the real things that kids really want and they're so thrilled with, often they're much less expensive than all those toys that they just get overwhelmed with. And sadly, of course, we've made one of the most amazing tools in the world, the tablets and the iPads, we've made them into junk as well because they're full of useless little games, you know, where they have babies punching balloons and the balloons burst. And that can keep a baby, you know, pretty much mesmerized and hypnotized for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. What a tragedy that we would do that when he could be learning Greek and having the time of his life and laughing with you and enjoying it. We're making him into the same kind of zombie that sadly we've all become to some degree because of those electronic devices. So another thing we would say, as much as no one loves their iPhone more than I do, no one admires that iPad for its potential, and the computer as well. They're all wonderful, but we're not using them correctly for the child. When we use them correctly as tools to learn how to program, to learn about how to learn about the world, fabulous. But when we use them like electronic workbooks, don't think we're fooling the kids. Kids know a boring workbook is a boring workbook, whether it's ink on paper or whether it's on an electronic screen, it's still a boring workbook. You won't fool the kids. And entrapping our babies as a kind of electronic babysitter, this is not the way. Well, I suspect you know that, or you wouldn't be tuning in to what we have to say. We want to give babies back to their mothers, and we want to give mothers back to their babies. And if we can do that, then we will have done our job. Now, let's talk about some of the questions that you have sent in. And again, I hope in starting in a general way that we have answered many of your questions on just getting off the ground. Don't think you can skip the philosophy. It's the most important part. If you're going to skip anything, skip the technique and make it up yourself. If you learn the philosophy, you'll have a very good shot at doing that. Because, you know, if I lined up 10 mothers doing the reading program right now, or 10 mothers doing encyclopedic knowledge, or 10 mothers doing math, and we watched those, I think you would say, well, gee, all 10 are different. This mother does it this way, and this mother does it that way, and that's right. Because every program is the creation of that mother and that child. And by the way, if we saw that mother teaching her second child or her third child, it would be different again, because kids don't come out of cookie cutters. Your kids will all be different. And those of you who already have 3 kids, you know that very well. They all like different things. They all approach life differently. So their programs have to be different to really fit them and to suit them. So first and foremost, when you want to begin your program, when you have read the book or you've listened to the DVD, or even better, attended the How to Multiply course here at the Institutes, when you are ready to begin, really make sure you've done your homework, you've prepared enough materials so that when you start, you don't feel, oh, I don't have enough material. We always like mothers to make a little stockpile before they start, maybe 200 words before they begin reading. So they don't have the sense of, I'm going to run out of material. And yes, it's very good to go to the library on a regular basis, to become very friendly with your librarian, because you are going to be going and getting out the maximum number of books you can so that you can read to your child and so that you can use some of those library books as potential material for making your own books. And because you're probably going to be doing a lot of that. So once you get started, you can choose the perfect time in the day to begin. Again, it's a little frustrating to say it, but we gave a lecture not long ago in Singapore, and Singapore really is the home of the tiger mother. And there were 1,000 mothers and fathers in the audience, and they were wonderful. The energy in the room was terrific. And as we always do, at the end, we took questions and invited people who wanted to stay to come and ask more questions. And I have to say, every single mother who lined up to ask a question about her reading program, in general, they were mothers who were struggling. Why doesn't he look at the cards? Why does he bite the cards? Why does he? A long list of really one mother after the other asking the same question. And I ask each mother a counter question. What time do you do your reading program? And mother said, well, when I get home from work at 6 o'clock. Disaster. You cannot do a reading program at 6 o'clock at night. You cannot do that. You cannot take what you're looking at in anything we're saying and say, well, can't change my lifestyle, so we're just going to have to shoehorn this in to the 45 minutes I have with my kid in the evening. You can't do that. So I said to each of those mothers the same thing. I said, put away the reading program. It's not for you. You spend the 45 minutes you have with your kid between the time you arrive home and when you put your kid to bed. First you hug him, then you kiss him. And when you get done kissing him, then start hugging him again. You have 45 minutes to be with your child, and you're going to spend it hugging him and kissing him and tickling him and having him hug you and kiss you, because you're both in a desperate mode to be with each other. You're not going to try to teach him to read, shoehorning that in some weird way. Now, that wasn't the answer those mothers wanted, but it is the answer. We're talking about really stepping back and saying we have to arrange our lives so that our children have a place in lives, a real place. 6 o'clock to 6:45 or 7 o'clock is not a real place. Whoever is with those babies all day long, those are the real mothers, those nannies or whoever it is. They're the ones that really know those children. Those mothers don't have enough time to really know their kids. So we're really saying the big picture is, yes, having a life with your child and having enough time in the morning when the child is fresh, having enough time all throughout the day to have a high quality relationship because it can't be frantic. It can't be, well, I want the whole thing for my child. And so I'm going to take whatever the Institute says and I'm going to shoehorn it in to whatever time I have. You know, one of the mothers in that big lecture in Singapore, at the end, she stood up and she said, well, I've spent many years fighting my way to the top of my high school and fighting my way into university and being able to pay for it. And now I have a high-level degree. And if what I'm hearing you say I should really be home with my baby right now. And I said, yes, that is what we're saying. And she said, well, how can you say that when you know how much time and how much money and how much energy I've put into getting this degree? How can you say that? And you know, what I said to her was, how can I not say that? Somebody has to speak for the baby. Who in our society is speaking for the baby? Is saying what the baby would say to mother is, I need you. I'm a baby. And I need you for the next 6 years. 6 years from now, you'll still have a degree and you'll still have those abilities. And you can go and do whatever it is you're going to do with that degree and those abilities, but you're the only mother I've got. And I need you. It's politically not correct. It's politically not popular. But sometimes you just have to say the truth. And that's the truth. So it isn't about cards. It's about the quality of your life with your child. That's what really matters most to us. And if you can buy the time, then teaching your baby to read, it's the most fun thing you could possibly do. It's very easy. Children learn to read very rapidly, but you have to have that quality time where you're really enjoying it side by side with your child. And your child sees your pleasure, because there is nothing your child wants more in the whole world than to see you smile. That's what our kids say. I love to see you smile, mommy. Because you know what? Our kids get to see their mothers smile. They get to see their mothers honestly enjoying themselves. And on an intellectual basis with a child. Having an intellectual pleasure, because mother and kid are learning together. And one of the beauties of teaching your child to read is you already know how to read, so you're ahead of your kid. You're pretty advanced in this area compared to your child. That won't be so true when you get to encyclopedic knowledge, where you may be teaching something that you don't know. Well, that'll be fun too, because you and your child will learn side by side. But that process of teaching your child to read, it's so easy. And you're just going to begin by stockpiling some words, read the book, stockpile some words, and then choose the very best times in the day. Only do it when your child is well-fed, well-rested, happy. Only do it when you're well-fed, well-rested, and happy. Don't think you have to do it X amount of times a day or something awful will happen. Of course, anything you do with your child, you need to be consistent. You can't stop and start and stop and start. I mean, I'm sure I'm a runner, and if you're a runner too, you know, if you want to go out and run a mile and you've never run a mile in your life, you don't go out the first day and run the mile. You go out and say, well, I'm going to do 100 yards. And then the next day you say, well, I'll do 100 yards plus 10 yards. And when you add, it doesn't feel like much. But one day you wake up and all of a sudden, not only are you running a mile, but it's awfully easy. You say, gee, if I could run a mile, I could easily run 2 miles. And you do it step by step. And that's the point with anything you do with your child. Do it in that step-by-step way. Say, if we could do this, if I could do 2 categories of 5 words, 10 words total, if I could do each of those categories 3 times today, So when the sun sets today, I've shown those 2 categories, each of them 3 times. Would that be a good thing for your child? No. That'd be a fabulous thing for your child. Does it take very much time? No, it doesn't. And then you say a few weeks from now, 2 categories. We could go to 3 categories. I think I could fit that in. So you go to 3. You say, gee, I've got enough words now. I could make a little book. Make a little book. You know what your kid will do when you make that book? He will go crazy that you've made that little book for him. So it's all there. It's all there in the reading book. It's not difficult. But the trick is when you start small. Start easy. Start in your own comfort zone. And then say, I can always escalate. I can always go higher. I can always add another category of words. And always ask yourself when you're making new words, is this a word my child's going to love? And anytime you say to yourself, well, gee, I don't know. Would he like this or would he like that? You know what you do? Ask him. Say, look, I'm about to make you some new words. Would you like words about reptiles? Or would you like words about mammals? Then you show him the reptiles and you show him the mammals. Which one do you like the best? And he chooses the reptiles. Oh, okay. So we're going to do reptile words. Everybody see this? It's so simple, but don't skip the idea, don't skip the step of asking your child. When in doubt, ask him. But to do that, you have to give him choices. You can't just say, what do you want? Because you'll get a blank stare if you do that, because you're demanding language from him and retrieval that can be tough for a little kid. But if you give him choices, would you like this or this or this? If he knows you're going to do this and you'll honor his answer, he will very quickly choose. Apple, mommy, I want apple. Okay, let's get an apple. Give him choices. Give him choices any way you can. Would you like to wear your red shorts or your blue shorts? Your blue shorts, okay. What do you think would go nicely with that? The white t-shirt or the pink t-shirt? Oh, the pink one, okay. Any place you can put your child in the driver's seat of his own life, you do it, and you do that with a reading program. Would you like to learn colors or would you like to learn things in the house? Which one would be fun for you right now? And he chooses. And you can always give him neither of these, something else. You can give him a default of other or not sure. That's the way you keep the reading program on the right track, because you're always looking to see, what does my kid need? What does my kid want? That's a secret. Well, that's a long answer to how to get started. I want to talk a little about the course, because we do get a lot of questions about the How to Multiply course. And first, I want to talk about the structure of the course and why we've structured it the way we have. We literally spend, the course starts on a Sunday, and we have our families come so that we can give them the background of the institutes. So we can not only meet each course participant, but the course participants have a chance to meet each other, because a big part of the course is being with other like-minded parents. Often our mothers feel a little bit alone out there. They're probably the only one in their street who's teaching their kid to read. And maybe a lot of people said, what? You're teaching the kid to read? And mother-in-law thinks you're crazy. And so often mothers feel they really are pioneers, and they don't have a lot of other people doing the same thing. And it's never easy to be a pioneer. It's exciting and it's worthwhile. But when you're alone as a pioneer, that's tough. We're lucky. We have each other. We have a big team here. So when one of us is a little down, we've got 90 other pioneers to say, hey, it's not that bad. We're making good progress. But mothers are alone. Mothers are isolated. And a big thing when mothers come here to the course is they look around and they see, oh my goodness, here are dozens of mothers and fathers just like me. They're crazy over their kid. They want to stay home and teach their kid. I'm not the only one. I'm not crazy. I always feel it's like having a room full of ugly ducklings. And on Sunday of the course, the ugly ducklings all look around the room and go, I'm not an ugly duckling. I'm a swan. And here I am with all the other swans. This is going to be a great week because I didn't know a group like this existed. And many times mothers and fathers form relationships during the week that are going to last the rest of their lives. Doesn't matter where that those mothers and fathers come from, all over the world, all over the United States, typical group, 4 or 5 continents, 14 or 15 states of the United States, 15 countries of the world. That's typical group. So that's something that there's no way for us to deliver on that in a book. That's an experience. And I think the course, I would characterize the course by being a life-changing experience. It's a life-changing experience. And it starts right on that Sunday when parents begin to know us better, we get to meet them, and they get to meet each other. They also get to meet some of the kids. We have a lovely tea, and our senior students here in our on-campus program host that tea. So you get to see some of the kids right off the bat. Monday is entirely devoted to reading. And we spend most of the day on philosophy and the afternoon on demonstrations where our mothers and children from our own on-campus program, the Evan Thomas Institute, come and demonstrate. And of course, they're there to show you their materials so you can see them and ask questions and get to know the kids better. So that's, I think, wonderful. And then after that demonstration, we go through every detail of the how-tos for the reading program. And at the end, parents can come down and ask their questions. It's a very exciting day. Tuesday, we do the exact same thing for encyclopedic knowledge. So we're talking about why we think encyclopedic knowledge is so important and what the background of that program is. And then we get to teach the how-tos, and that's very important because that program really requires more material preparation than any other part of our program. So we find it's very helpful for mom and dad to get a very good idea of why we do it the way we do and why we get the result that we get. So that's Tuesday. Again, very exciting. By the end of Tuesday, I think everyone goes back to their hotel and says, wow, am I going to be able to sleep tonight? I have so many good ideas. Wednesday, we devote entirely to math, and this is important because many mothers, math is not where they would begin. We still live in a society where most people do not feel confident in math. And we're at a moment in our development worldwide where we all need to be confident and happy in mathematics because it's the basis for so much that we need to understand. So that's what Wednesday is all about. And again, we have wonderful demonstrations on Wednesday, which are a huge amount of fun. In those demonstrations, we actually get members of our course to come down and participate with our students. And that's always a highlight. Thursday is entirely the day we turn over to our staff who are experts in mobility and physical growth. And that's what we teach. We teach all the way from the newborn baby up to advanced gymnastics and everything in between. I think of all the days of the course, I think Thursday is the big surprise. I think most people who come to the course come for intellectual reasons. They want the intelligence program. And they say, oh, the physical, that'll be nice. But by the end of Thursday, an awful lot of people in the course say, I never understood the importance of the physical program. I now see that it is an integral part of intellectual growth. And I'm going to go home and I'm going to make that the top priority for my kid right now, because I think he really needs this more than he needs anything else. On Friday, we get to teach about the Institute's developmental profile. And for some parents, when we ask, they will say that this was the high point of the week for them, that they didn't have the big picture of development of the child until they could embrace that developmental profile. So I think that's a very important moment in the course. We teach foreign language on Friday, and not a moment too soon, because many people, when they arrive on Sunday, their first question is, I want to know how to teach my child a second language. So we answer that on Friday. We also teach about our music program. We have a wonderful, rich, deep music program, and we get to teach about that on Friday. On Friday, we have a demonstration on music appreciation pathway. We show each step of it with our kids, and then the kids actually have a formal concert, and they come down and play the violin, play the piano, sing. It's a pretty nice end of the demonstrations that week. So, you know, every course is the same for the last 40 years we've been doing it, and everyone is different. Every group is different. They have a great common theme, but they also have their own personality. But we have never ever done that course that a parent doesn't say, I should have been here a year ago. I'm kicking myself all week. I should have been here a year ago. And make sure that you tell parents to get here at the earliest moment. Another mother will say, you know, I only got here by accident, and this is the most important week I've ever spent. Please tell mothers to beg, to borrow, to steal, whatever they have to get here, because my life will never be the same. The life of my child will never be the same. And I'm saying that to you now, because that we are told that every single course. You know, we have been giving the course for a long time. And now, sometimes as much as 25 or 30% of the people in the room are themselves better babies. They come with a battered reading kit and say, this was my kit. My mom taught me to read. She attended this course 28 years ago. I know the course intimately from the viewpoint of a baby because I was raised with this, and now I want to do it with my child. You can't imagine how wonderful that is for all of us. The time has just gone by so quickly. I can't believe that their mothers, because I remember their mothers, and it's hard to believe that they now have grown-up children who are expecting their own children. So always in the course now, there are babies all grown up and coming back to have that same life-changing experience. So yes, I know the economy is awful, and I know it's very tough, and I wish there were a way to fly an airplane around the world and pick up all of our parents and deliver them to the Valentine Auditorium. But whatever you have to do, you can be sure that we'll keep a place, a warm seat for you in our very cold auditorium, and that it is a life-changing experience. Another question that we're asked, and it's a very good one. We have done our best to create a mini course, and that's on DVD. It's 5 DVDs, and that's for the thousands of parents who write to us and say, I won't be able to make it to the course tomorrow morning, or I can come in 6 months, or I can come in a year, or I live a million miles away. There's no chance I'm ever going to make it there. we wanted some strong way to be able to give the basics on a home program basis. So we've created a home version of the course on 5 DVDs. So we strongly, strongly recommend anyone who's going to embark on teaching your child that you actually get that course. We've made it as inexpensive as we possibly can. And, you know, we're a small nonprofit. We struggle every day to survive. If we could give it away, we would give it away. But we have to survive. So we've made it as can. We've made a set of books to go with it as economical as we can, so that as many parents can profit from that wonderful course. Now, if you say to me, well, what's the difference between the home course and, well, there's a huge difference. I mean, putting it on DVDs and, you know, condensing it as we have done, of course, it's going to make a difference. You won't be sitting in the room with all those parents from around the world. But I certainly think for any mother who knows that she can't get to the course in the next 12 months, it would be a very, very wise thing to do the home course. And again, there are parents who do the home course and say, this is great, I've loved it, but I'm going to the big course. And that's great too. So, you know, I hope this has answered virtually every question that we had right now. And I hope everyone here who has, if you have questions, please feel free to send them to us. We will be coming back in the future and doing this again. It's been a great pleasure. And I really look forward to meeting you, to meeting your baby or your young child through you. And I hope that you feel a part of this place, because just to the degree you wish to be, we see you as part of our family.